Right, this is just for your consent that I have started recording of this particular session, and I'll be sharing this particular after this batch, right? Okay. So guys, the agenda of this particular session is going to be here. Those guys who are working as NOC engineers, DevOps engineer, or those who are already working as DevOps engineer right now, they are planning to switch their job. Maybe a couple of guys are working in network field, but right now they are trying to switch to tech ops or maybe SRE profile, right? So what the major challenge here is, they do not actually have idea about like how does infrastructure look like, what sort of components do we have, and how these components are connected to one another. For example, if I ask you like what are the particular tools do we use in DevOps, right? So that sort of things are here. So we are going to discuss end-to-end application flow of a particular, okay, you can see here, like this is just a basic diagram. So I was explaining some sort of load balancers. So like this. So we are going to talk about like how does traffic flow work from end user to application to load balancer to some other like global escalator, EC2 machines, internal load balancer, what are use cases of it, how many load balancer do we use, what type of load balancer do we use, how do we ensure the security of this load balancer. So that sort of these are going to be aspect of it, and not only the diagram discuss, but definitely we are going to discuss about some practical use cases as well. Because during interview, someone is going to ask like, what is the basic requirement of it? How do you crack the interview? That sort of thing, definitely we are going to help you with. So this is about agenda. My name is Dr. Lokendra Singh. I have more than 1.5 decade of experience into teaching different tools and technology. I'm a working professional as well. Currently, I'm working in the management, like senior management, you can call that. And I do not teach only. I like to share my experience as well with you. So a couple of you might already have gone through my YouTube channel, and that's it. That's about me. So guys, I would like to hear from your side, like what sort of audience do we have today, and what are the expectations? Yes, please. So who will start?
I can start if no one is
Yes,
starting.
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So my name is Takir Noor. Uh, I'm in San Jose, California at the moment. I'm here in SF Bay Area from last 7 years approximately. I did my master's in computer science from here itself, and soon after that, actually during the master, I started internship, and then I did start working as an as a Linux system engineer. So I started my career by working as an Linux infrastructure engineer in Western Digital. So I worked there around 2.5 years. After that, I moved to Apple through their employee vendor uh, from last 4 years approximately. In my current job, I'm working in I worked in different team. Earlier I started working as an Linux system engineer. Actually is a kind of Linux operation team where I was responsible for carrying all sort of Linux admin related work. After that, I moved to their DevOps team for Siri and Pi. There also, like, I worked around 6 to 8 months. After that, I moved to Apple Payment Gateway team. So currently, I'm working there as a payment SRE,
Great,
where
great,
I'm
great. Good,
responsible
good, good
for.
to know that. Okay, so if I ask like what are the tools and technology, like number, like just the names,
Yeah,
which you
sure.
call the point.
Yeah. So the tools and technology what I'm using here, like all kind of Linux tools, as well as a lot of Ansible, Docker, console, as well as Jenkins a lot. So what I want is to learn from you is AWS, and secondly, I would like to learn Kubernetes a lot. I have very good understanding of infrastructure, the data center, but unfortunately, I haven't worked much in AWS or any cloud. So that would be my main focus point.
Yeah, okay, fine, good to know that. So definitely, guys, first of all, let me tell you about like what sort of tools and technology we are going to discuss here, and like how we are going to start. So first of all, the particular component and the particular requirement for interview here is like, what are your day-to-day routines? That sort of thing we are going to discuss. Then after, what sort of different profiles are there in market for what you will be able to apply after completion of this particular course. So what are the profiles here? First of all, Linux admin, right guys? So Linux admin is such a profile where only Linux skills are required, and not only Linux. Aside to this, we would require some sort of network knowledge. Like what is IP addressing, how do we assign IP addresses? So only Linux knowledge would not be sufficient to become a Linux administrator. Why it is so? Because until and unless you guys know it properly, like what are IP addresses, what are the classes of IP addresses, right? Then after, what are the range of these IP addresses? So let us say if someone is going to define some IP address range before you, and the person wants to ask, okay, can you tell me like what is the IP address range? So in that case, being Linux administrator, you should be knowing about that what is network, IPv4, IPv6, different classes of it, like recognition of individual IP address, that sort of thing we should be knowing, right? To become Linux administrator, network knowledge is required, right? So maybe network admin you can call that. So combination of Linux and network administrator can be considered as Linux administrator. Why it is so? Because let us say you are working on file permissions, user addition, disk management, everything you are working with, but you do not know that how to bring a server up. How will you guys be able to bring a server up? Because if you know how to assign IP address, only then you shall be able to access it over internet, over network, right? So in fact, some sort of network knowledge will also be required. Okay. So now let us say another profile here is like cloud admin. So when we call it cloud, so it could be any, it could be like GCP, it could be your AWS, or it could be Azure. So any sort of cloud computing environment you can think of, and then you are talking about administration of it. So in that case, guys, not only these information would be required, you would need Linux, network, and then after the particular cloud information. Why is that so? For example, there is a request coming in that you need to create a particular server, right guys? So what will you do? For example, you have provisioned, or you have created a particular EC2 machine, or you have virtual machine. What is virtual machine we will discuss later on, for sure we will discuss, but for example I'm just telling. So if you have created one EC2 machine, so during interview a person might be interested in knowing, okay, once you create EC2 machine, what do you do after that, right guys? So in order to perform, or in order to prove that yes, you have knowledge of the real working environment, you should be knowing about it, that what is the task of Linux administrator on a particular machine which is created by AWS admin. Moreover, the market is really open as of today, and the particular skill set which organizations are looking are not specific. For example, most of companies do not prefer to hire one person as Linux administrator and another person as cloud administrator. They are looking for a combination of both, that they must spend some more time in order to find out such a person who should be able to work on cloud, as well as the person should be able to at least configure basic configuration of Linux. For example, a person is supposed to install software. What would an engineer do after creation of machine? Like, it may be required to install some sort of software. Then after, the person may seek help from developer in order to configure that particular software. Then after, let us say if there is a deployment supposed to go live, the person should be able to copy, paste the particular files which developer are providing. Maybe person should be able to modify the configuration file which as per the suggestion from developer. The person should be able to set up complete infrastructure from the side of cloud computing environment. If developers say that we need more resources, then Linux administrator work would be there, that the person would be responsible to analyze whether the resource we are assigning to one EC2 machine or one virtual machine are being utilized properly or not. Are these machines over provisioned? So developer may ask for a hell lot of resources, but being Linux administrator and being cloud administrator, we guys are not supposed to provide all the resources which developers are asking. We need to go for optimization purpose. So if you are working in a real-time environment, only then you guys will be able to understand and will be able to help with this, right? Okay, for example, now you know AWS, you know Linux administrator, and after that, guys, what you are planning to do, you are planning to go for DevOps, which is the like topmost like position as of today we have, right? So DevOps is a particular a particular combination of development and operations. So guys, is there anyone who can help me with understanding like why it is DevOps? Why do we use DevOps methodology? This guys, this is not a tool or technology, this is just a methodology, right? So why do we use DevOps? Anyone can help me with this?
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, please
So
go.
DevOps is basically a culture, we can say, so that it can be delivered at a faster rate. If we want to deploy anything to the production, it can be deployed at a very faster rate. So that's why we use DevOps.
Okay, so just to add something here, for example, if I am working as a developer and I would like to deploy something onto production environment, so will I not be able to perform that in a faster pace? What I can do here is, if I have access to production server, as soon as the particular jar file is available, I have tested in my local environment, right? So I can immediately deploy that into production environment. Who can stop me by doing that?
Yeah, we can, but there won't be like continuous integration and delivery.
So this is continuous delivery. I'm not talking integration, I'm talking delivery. Developer is doing code on laptop and pushing the code to production environment.
Right.
So even like there are multiple gaps which are like cut off. For example, we do not need to have QA sign off, like quality assurance sign off, UAT sign off, security sign off. We need to do anything. A developer can do development and push the code to production. So nothing can be faster than this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, sir, just in case if we have to roll back any change, that may be hampering the end result. So I think then it will be a big issue if we don't follow it up, if we don't follow DevOps methodology, because the earlier one, the waterfall, so it was a step by step. So if one thing goes back, then again it have to go back to developer. Whereas because it's a small chunk of software which we update regularly, that's the reason it have to be like it need to be faster, and as well as it will go for the testing and everything then and there, and it will be a we can deliver our software in a rapid phase.
Perfect, Amit. Perfect. I just love to hear that. But okay, I have a particular question. See, like obviously, I know I would like to state this particular statement. First of all, the things which we are talking right now, way beyond, right? These things are not really logical. The question which I'm asking or the suggestion which I'm giving right now. But we are just talking about that. Why does actually DevOps exist, right? So as I am saying that why does a developer cannot do deployment onto production environment? First thing. Second thing here is, let us say, as Amit said, that when it requires to be rollback of any release, of any change. So Amit, just to answer your question, the developer who deployed the change right now, the developer must be having previous copy of that code as well. Maybe the previous jar can be taken on the same server as backup. Maybe developer might have a copy of that previous jar onto laptop. Once again, the person can push. So like deployment, like even rollback is much faster. Developer knows what a person has to do. Isn't it?
Right.
Then what?
I think the overall process will be like we have to follow certain protocol. I think that's the reason we have joined this class.
Okay, I get you, I get you. But do you get me like what I'm
Yes,
trying to say here?
Yeah, I got it.
So the particular perspective which we have, okay, let us say developers do not have access to production environment. The very first thing. Why it is so? Because let us say if like there are different teams working in a particular organization. Let me define the names of those teams first of all. Then after we will discuss that why does developers do not have access to production environment. First of all, we are going to discuss this thing. Then after we will come on to DevOps, like why it is required and why operation team is required. What is why this combination? What sort of tools and technology does DevOps team work upon? What are the roles here? What are the responsibilities here? How do we define the segregation of roles and responsibility between Dev and DevOps team? So that sort of thing we are definitely going to discuss here, right, guys? Okay, so first of all, the very first team here is business team, right? Or UAT, like this is known as user acceptance test. What does it mean, like business team? So guys, until and unless there is a particular business model available for any organization, so what would developers do? What sort of logic they are going to write? Clear, guys? Until and unless there is a business model, what would developers do? So first of all, there is a team known as business team, right? Then after, the business team will generate some sort of ideas. Then after, there will be like product team. I'm just giving some names, right? So product team will have an idea. Okay, like these are like our existing customers, which can directly reach out to us, or these can be our potential customer. These teams are basically generating new ideas, like how we can grow our businesses, right? Then after, we have a particular engineering team. So within engineering team, there will be breakup further. First of all, we will have dev team like development. We will have development team here, right? Then after, we will have QA. QA stands for quality assurance team. Like you can call the testers, like, or you can call the software testers as well, right, guys? So whatever you can give them a name, but the team is known as quality assurance team. Maybe testing team, whatever you want, you can call them. After that, what we are going to do here is, we are going to think of some other teams, like we want a particular NOC, like Network Operation Control Center team. So the team is responsible only for monitoring purpose. Whatever we deploy into the production server, traffic is coming properly. These guys are going to be responsible only to monitor traffic. For example, if any alert is there, if it is a basic alert, for example, disk is getting full and service is not running. So if they are allowed to perform operation, they will log into server, and after login to that particular server, the guys can easily troubleshoot and they can fix the issue, right, guys? But sometimes it can also happen that some of the guys are not allowed to log into server, and they are actually not able to like troubleshoot issue. They will escalate it, right? Okay. Next thing we are going to talk about is SRE. So basically, SRE was the concept which was given from the side of Google. So this is known as Site Reliability Engineering Team. These guys are only responsible for production environment most of time. I would not say that these guys do not look into development, but yes, most of time these guys are, or this team is responsible for ensuring production uptime, production stability, right? SRE, Site Reliability Engineering, this is known as. Then after, if you want to give some different name, maybe these are not going to be responsible only for your like production, but they are going to be involved into monitoring stuff as well. So you can call that TechOps. Like technology operations. Technology means like every sort of servers, whether these are application server, these are database servers, these are middleware servers. So every sort of server would be under control of this particular team. So guys, this is known as TechOps team. After TechOps, what we are going to do, we are going to be part of like some other component we are going to talk about. So guys, development team says, okay, let us say when we are talking about these teams, so we would talk about some in different environments as well. Why it is so? Because if we have different teams, so these teams are supposed to work on different environments, right, guys? So the very first environment here is going to be dev environment, because first of all, development will happen. Only then other guys, okay, E and B. Dev environment, so where developers are supposed to work, they will do their development onto their laptop. Then after, in order to test, like how will the behavior of this particular development be into a different environment when it will be deployed onto server hardware, right? Maybe they would like to test the performance of it, like how much memory the software is consuming, whether there is any memory leakage and all, that sort of. So that environment is known as dev environment. Second environment would be here QA, like quality assurance environment, or you can call that test environment. Then after, it will be UAT, like whatever was the requirement generated from business team, right? That was developed by developers, that was tested in order to ensure quality of that particular piece of software, was done by QA team and on QA environment. Finally, the particular software will be deployed on a UAT, like user acceptance test environment, where business team will analyze and ensure that every single aspect, like whatever was the requirement, is fulfilled completely by the developers, right? That is known as UAT environment. After that, there will be a particular environment which will be managed by your TechOps team or your DevOps team. That is known as SIT. Now, guys, SIT stands for System Integration Test. Why is it required here? So, guys, we need to understand. First of all, let us say there is a version upgrade of any software. For example, we were using Java 7 and now we are upgrading to Java 8, maybe Java 9, 11, 13, 17, whatever. So we will have to ensure that whenever we are upgrading software version, so how does this software perform after being upgraded? Does it help? Does the upgradation help in order to ensure the performance of service? Is it going to degrade? Is it going to remain same? Moreover, not only this, we are also supposed to ensure that does it bring some sort of other vulnerabilities with itself? Vulnerability means like sort of like a buggy system, you can call that in other words, right? So we will have to ensure all the components over here, like performance of that particular system stability will be tested here in SIT, System Integration Test Environment. And this environment is especially managed by the DevOps or maybe by the TechOps team only, right? No other team has to perform anything over here. Yes, DevOps or TechOps team may seek help from quality engineers or like testers in order to perform some sort of load testing. So SIT system can also be used for PT, like performance testing, right? Finally, we have a particular prod environment, or like there could be one another. If we are working with really like agile system, then we can have a pre-prod environment as well. And finally, the particular environment will be known as prod, right? So these are the environments here. So development, guys, any questions so far? I would like to know.
Yeah, we are good.
Okay, great, sounds good. So guys, when we are talking about like this is dev environment and all the environments are here, these are the particular team who are taking care of it. So let us say a developer did some sort of modification within code, right? And has deployed onto this particular environment known as dev environment, right? Quality engineer tested it in development environment. That was working fine. That was working fine in UAT, but as soon as it went to production, the code stopped working. The particular behavior is really weird. Maybe the UI is getting like weird, like that is not working properly, right? The particular UI is looking blurred. The particular font is getting changed. That sort of issues are there, right? So now who will be responsible for this sort of problem? Development teams will say that we on this development environment and this is working properly here, you can have a look. Quality engineer will say that I tested it on dev environment, but it is not working on prod. Quality engineer is responsible to perform sanity on both the environments. Now, guys, you tell me who is going to be responsible for it. Dev team will say this is not our issue because it is working fine in dev. Pro team says, like you can call that this TechOps team or SRE team. Who is responsible to be managing prod environment? As I told you, like SRE and TechOps are responsible to ensure the uptime of production environment, right? So who is responsible to like take the honors of this issue? Actually, end of the day, issue exists, right? So who is supposed to be responsible for this environment now? Can you guys help me with that? Dev team is ready to show that code is working in dev environment. TechOps and SRE are ready to show that this is not working in our environment. Then who is going to be responsible to resolve this issue? Does it look like a real-time issue, guys? A real scenario?
Yeah, it would be. Well, at the end, this is the SRE responsibility to come up like why the test and why the codes are failing.
Okay, and why would SRE be responsible? Because SRE has not written any sort of code. SRE, the engineer does not know like what sort of libraries are invoked here. SRE engineer does not know the particular flow on the particular like the functions which are written inside code, what all other dependencies are there. It could be possible that developer might have like include any sort of other font inside their like coding, inside their development, how would SRE be responsible for this?
Like
Because
SRE will
SRE engineer
only be
is only
responsible for.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Go
okay,
ahead,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah, so my thought is like SRE is not responsible for overall coding and all. SRE is only responsible to view the errors and send out to developers. Like, hey, I from the Splunk log, we watched this is happen, and that is the reason why your application is failing. And based on what SRE provided, the developer needs to fix and again deploy in their environment, like in the dev environment or in whichever environment it is failing.
Yes, very true, Noor. I appreciate your point, but once again, there will be a particular political issue between developer and like your production support engineers. As soon as you will send the logs to developer will say that I am not getting these sort of logs in development environment. I have tested it out. Even I can send you the multiple requests, multiple responses here. Like you need to look into it. Because let us say there is a jar file, for example, like Java-based code, we can discuss about for a while. So developer says that the same jar I have deployed into my development server, that is working fine, no issues there. How would I be able to identify a non-production environment? You debug it. And that is what happens in real time. Yes, Laura, I guess you have a question.
Now, I wanted to answer your question. I
Please go
think
ahead.
it's the DevOps engineer who is responsible for resolving that issue.
Indeed. Definitely. Because what I was trying to state here is that developer will say this is not our issue. Operation team will say this is not our issue. So that is why that was the particular situation where DevOps was emerged. DevOps team came into picture. Because DevOps is a particular team or a group of people, group of engineers who are developer in nature and operation engineers by their daily routine, right? Because when we are talking about DevOps team, so they are developer, they know at least this much information they have. For example, if there is a particular logic written, they should be able to identify, okay, is it fine or not? Let us say if they have to identify, like they need to compare some sort of like previous code, they need to compare the performance of previous deployment with existing one. So I'm not saying DevOps team will do coding in that particular case. I really do not mean to say that DevOps team is going to be responsible in order to do debugging of code. No, DevOps team will take help from developers. Operation side they have access to, and they will take help from developers. Okay, let's get on a call. We are going to provide you a complete environment. Whatever sort of like development you have done, maybe it could be required the developer might have added any new library which requires any new font of any like language, for example English, for example Hindi, for example anyone, right? So in that particular, dev team will inform that okay, we have added new font into our code. Can you please check on this particular production environment that does this production environment has the particular new font installed within operating system? If it is, it will work. If it is not, it will not work. Then in that case, DevOps team will check the first of all the particular components on dev environment. It will be compared with production environment, and if there is something missing, with the help of developers, DevOps team is going to be responsible to install that piece of software into production environment. The very first thing. Second thing here is, in order to bridge the gap between developers and operation engineers, this team was required basically. Right, guys? So DevOps is not a tool or a technology. DevOps is just a methodology, which is there in order to bridge the gap between operation engineers and the developers. Where there is no one, guys are ready to support, over there DevOps team will have to jump in. For example, they should be knowing about networking concept. DevOps engineers should be knowing about Linux. DevOps engineers should be knowing about production, like your production architecture. DevOps team should be knowing about your all the tools. For example, let us the particular tool which we are going to like discuss here is like let me write it down. The particular tools which we are going to cover here. So guys, these are going to be first of all, like obviously we will begin with Linux based. because until unless we know Linux, we cannot call ourselves DevOps, because all the tools, whatever we are going to work with, these are going to be installed on the top of Linux operating system. So first of all, we will discuss about Linux, major topic like user administration, file permission, disk management, and your like how do we play with the particular LVMs, that sort of things we are going to discuss. Like major topic of Linux we will cover, like server performance monitoring, like frequently used commands of Linux we will discuss for sure. Then after we will talk about cloud computing and especially AWS. So inside AWS we are going to cover like EC2, S3, VPC, your IAM roles, like major topics of AWS which are usually discussed during interview. And these are the particular major topics which are supposed to be known by any like AWS engineer in order to face interview, right guys? After that, we will be talking about your infra architecture. Like, for example, if I am going to enter, for example, app.diagram.net. If I type in this particular URL into my browser, so what is going to happen in backend? Like once I hit enter here, and I will be able to see a particular graph or a particular web page on my desktop, on my screen, right? So what all steps are going to be involved in backend? How would a request flow, right? Whether it will invoke any load balancer in between, whether request will go to DNS, whether it will go to like only web server, are there some application server involved, are there some databases involved, do we have some other component for authentication, authorization, do we have Kafka, do we have Redis, like do we have Elasticsearch, let us say we are doing any product search. So what all components would be there? If these are, then how these are interconnected? Do we need load balancer? If yes, how many? Are these going to be public facing or they are going to be internal only? If these are internal, what type of load balancer do we need to use? How do we secure it? Where from do we get traffic on internal? Okay. So guys, when we are talking about these components, okay, someone said, okay guys, please mute yourself if you are not speaking. Okay, so guys, when we are talking about this particular component, they like this infrastructure diagram, we will talk about like infrastructure architecture, we will talk about like end-to-end application flow. Like if you type in a particular URL into a browser, then what is the flow of traffic? End-to-end we will discuss about like where do we implement security, what are the all components involved here. Let us say we have CDN, if we have caching mechanism, what sort of caching mechanism maybe we may have, everything we will discuss about over here. After that, we will discuss about the particular DevOps tool. Because when we talk about DevOps, so guys, DevOps is going to involve multiple tools here, such as, let me draw something here. The particular life cycle of DevOps. How does it look like? So guys, once again, I'm going to have a particular circle here. We will write here DevOps. So, okay, friends, first of all, we will talk about like when does DevOps come into picture? For example, there is a developer working, right? Or maybe like multiple developers are working here. Now, this developer are doing development. Let us say, let me provide them a laptop. Okay. Okay. The developer is working on laptop. The person may have some sort of like programming languages, let us say Java. The person may have Apache installed. The person may have MySQL or maybe some other sort of databases installed onto laptop. Once the person is done with the development, right? After that, person is supposed to send a code to GitHub. So we will talk about Git here because this is going to be known as SCM, source code management, right? The source code where developer is going to put the code. So this is the very first place which comes into picture. Being DevOps, what are your roles and responsibilities? For example, you are going to create repositories. You are going to provide access to individual developers. If new developer is going to join, you will be providing them access. If existing developer is going to leave the organization, you shall be like responsible in order to remove the access from that particular tool. Moreover, if the developer owned some sort of repositories, then definitely guys, you will be responsible to like transfer the ownership of that branch to some other existing developer or maybe into your name. That sort of task you will be performing. If it is a security reason, for example, you would like to have a policy where maker and checker are going to be there. Like a person who is doing development will not be allowed to commit the code into master branch. For sure, we will be discussing about branching strategy of Git as well. Not to worry about, but for now, just example I'm giving. Right, guys? Okay, guys, any questions so far?
No, sir.
We are good. Okay, so we will be discussing about roles and responsibility of a DevOps engineer on Git. Maybe let us say you, if there is a particular organization changing your SCM tool, maybe from Git to Bitbucket to maybe GitLab, or that sort of. So that sort of task we should be knowing about. Then after, once the particular code is committed into Git, there will be a new tool which will be used for especially deployment. So the tool will be known as Jenkins. So the questions around Jenkins would be, okay, how do you write your Groovy file? Yeah, or how do you write your Jenkins? Yeah, so this is fine. So how do you, first of all, like how do you integrate Git with Jenkins? Right? How do you write your particular Jenkins jobs? What are the type of job do you write? Okay, the very first job is freestyle. Then after we have pipeline. In pipeline, we have like different type of pipelines. We have scripted, declarative. What sort of pipeline do you write? What are the differences here? Right? Like if you do not have very good hands on like Groovy, so how would you write your Jenkins pipeline? That sort of. What are the plugins have you used so far with the Jenkins? For example, someone may ask you, okay, let us say if you need to upgrade your Jenkins, then what sort of tools you are going to use? How will you ensure backup? How will you like ensure that if your Jenkins master is crashed, how will you bring it back online? That sort of question would be discussed. How do you set up Jenkins master and slave? That sort of question would be there during your interview discussion. If there is a company who is looking only for Jenkins administrator, then only there will be a case. The person might ask you to write some sort of Groovy script in real time. The person may assign you some sort of task, and after writing your scripts, they may ask you to explain it. Like, why did you use this? Why did you know? Why you did not use another like concept, another like approach you did not follow? Why only this? That sort of discussion may be there. So need not to worry. Up to this particular level, we are going to discuss like why and what, like this sort of thing we are going to discuss for sure. Okay. After Jenkins, let us say you have multiple servers and now you need to integrate Jenkins with other servers. So we will discuss about Ansible. Like for example, there is a user, like we have 1000 servers and you need to create a user on all servers. Or let us say one user is absconding today. We got to know that person has joined some other organization and you guys need to revoke the access of that user on immediate basis. Unfortunately, we are not using any sort of AD like Active Directory or LDAP, lightweight directory access protocol services. We are not using it. So guys, how will you be able to block that particular user? Or maybe it could also be possible that the user was really important for organization and user might have some sort of scripts, some sort of backup files available in users home directory. So how will you be able to block the user's access immediately? So we would need to have some sort of configuration management tool. So we will talk about Ansible, like how do we write Ansible playbook? What sort of playbook have you written so far? What other modules do you use? That sort of question we will discuss about during this particular session. Right, after Ansible, so we will be talking about different environment, like different environment in the sense like we have discussed about here, your QA, Dev, UAT, SIT. So guys, these are the particular environment based on the utilization. These are the particular environment which are based on the utilization. So there are two different type of environment which we have, which we will need to see. First of all, based on network. And another would be based on your like host. It is going to be physical host or virtual host. So if we talk about like network, so how do we define the particular network? Say first of all, DMZ, like demilitarized zone. Then after it will be your prod. Then after it will be your TND. Guys, do we understand like what is DMZ, what is prod, and what is TND?
No, sir. What is DMZ?
DMZ stands for demilitarized zone, where all the web servers are kept. I will explain for sure this. Like all web servers, these servers will have public plus private IP address. Firewall protected. Right? These are highly secured server, because end of the day, there has to be a particular entry point where from we are going to accept traffic from world, like from our end users. Guys, keep this thing in mind. All the servers, all the services which we are going to provide to our end user, these are going to be accessible over internet only, right? So the particular entry point, maybe it could be your Nginx server, it could be Apache, it could be Tomcat, it could be load balancer. So whatsoever applications you are going to have, which are exposed over towards internet on port number 443 or maybe port number 80, these services are kept under DMZ zone, and DMZ zone is supposed to be very secure, firewall protected. This server will have private and public IP address both configured on the same interface or maybe on different interfaces, right? And prod servers are supposed to have private IP address. We will discuss these things in detail. Do not worry. Need not to stress your mind a lot right away right now. But I'm just giving you a particular concept. I'm just trying to explain you like how does actual infra look like, right? So private, it will have private IP address only, or you can write in a like as a note, no public IP. The particular production servers, prod servers or prod zone does not have any public IP address. Yes, these servers can access internet, but no one from internet can access these servers. Just like a particular Wi-Fi router. For example, if you see, I do not have any public IP address assigned on my laptop, but still I'm able to connect over internet. And how is that so? Yes, guys. How am I able to access internet without assigning any public IP address to my laptop?
Using net.
Pardon?
Using net, NAT.
And what? Okay, NAT. And where have I configured that?
On router.
In the firewall.
Yes, you are right. Maybe on the firewall, maybe on my Wi-Fi router or whatever, right? So in a nutshell, we need to understand prod servers may or may not access internet. We may need to use some sort of proxy servers, right? And proxy servers are created in DMZ zone once again. All the proxy servers which are taking you to internet, these servers are created in DMZ zone. Once again, I would like to state prod servers do not have any sort of public IP address associated, right? Now, TND, obviously, as the name suggests, like testing and development, these server may or may not have your public IP addresses, your private IP addresses will be for sure there, but these servers do not have connectivity with DMZ in prod environment. These are kept isolated. Testing and development servers do not have connectivity enabled with these servers, prod and DMZ. Network connectivity should not be there. Yes, there has to be some logical way where from like you can we may have a common server which is connected like Git or your Jenkins server may be connected. So using which you will download the code from GitHub to dev and to prod environment both, right? But all the dev and test servers should not have connectivity enabled with prod server. Are we clear with that, guys?
Yes.
Okay. So this is based on network. So right now we have seen three type of network based network based on network. Three different type of networks like environment we have seen. DMZ, which stands for demilitarized zone. Prod means production. So guys, what sort of servers do we keep in production? Like your application servers. It could involve your maybe JBoss, maybe your WebLogic, WebSphere, right? Tomcat, that sort of servers you may have. Then after, maybe databases also you may have. TND, test and development, it will include everything, your web server, your test server, your databases, application server, your microservices, Elasticsearch, monitoring engine, everything will be included here. Right, guys? This is based on network, okay? So I'm going to remove it. Okay, now the next point here is host-based. So guys, when we talk about host-based network, so there are different type of networks. First of all, we may have a physical server, right? So if anyone might have got a chance to work inside a data center, then people started working with physical servers only when I started my career with data center. So like physical servers were there, right? We used to take a CD-ROM or maybe a particular pen drive. Like most of the time CD-ROM was required in order to install operating system into that particular server, right? So physical servers we may have. Later on, the virtualization concept came into picture and we started working with virtual machines. So virtual machines were there. Then after later on, like technology emerged itself once again, and right now we are working with containers, right? And if you want to be a little more advanced, then you can talk about serverless. What is serverless? Like you can talk about Lambda or like Cloud Function, right, guys? If you talk about containers, like Docker is there. Docker K8s, like Docker Kubernetes, you may talk about. If you talk about virtual machines, you may talk about like EC2 in AWS, VM in your Azure, or maybe in GCP in Alibaba, right? So, or maybe like if you have your on-prem data center, so you may think of VMware, like they are creating multiple virtual machines on VMware. If you talk of physical servers, so multiple vendors are there, like HP is there, HP, Dell, IBM, and so on and so forth. Like obviously I'm not like brand ambassador of anyone, right? So I'm just a like engineer, nothing more than that. So jokes apart. So like HP, Dell, IBM, a lot of vendors could be there, right, guys? So any doubt about this so far?
No.
No.
Great. So when we are talking about like we need to work upon, like being a DevOps engineer, guys, we need to work upon Git. So what sort of role responsibility we have? Jenkins, Ansible. Now we need to talk about like environment based on host, like multiple VMs are there. We need to integrate like VM, these virtual machines, like maybe container, host with this particular Ansible server. Then after we need to talk about, we need to talk about the particular software which are installed over here. So one of the web server, which is known as Apache, we will talk about. Then after Apache, we will discuss about one of the databases, because being DevOps engineer, we are always supposed to work up to administrative level on these sort of tools. Like we will discuss about MySQL. Like MySQL, we will discuss about, right? Then after we will talk about monitoring of entire structure, like Git, the particular Git, Jenkins, even Ansible server, even all the containers, physical servers, virtual machines, the particular performance of this Apache server, performance of MySQL server, how many concurrent connections are there? Is there any replica lag between master and slave? How do we configure it? That sort of thing we are going to discuss. So we are going to talk about Prometheus. Right, guys? We are going to discuss about Prometheus over here. And guys, just a moment. Yes, guys. So we are going to discuss about Prometheus, like how do we set up monitoring? And guys, one more thing we need to discuss here. So during interview, it is required, like what sort of rule do you implement? And moreover, the particular focus here is like when you are going to set up monitoring. So what are the particular components you have used so far? What are the particular type of exporters you have used so far? For example, you need to monitor like Apache, MySQL. Maybe you need to monitor sort of other databases. So what sort of connector do you use for that? Right? What sort of exporters do you use for that? For example, by default, Prometheus works with the time series database, TSDB, time series database. So let us say if you need to migrate database from time series to some other databases, maybe Victoria you need to use, right? So what are the particular steps involved? So that sort of questions are there. Like, for example, if you need to store the metrics of your monitored resources for more than 2 months in order to check the like historical like performance of that particular service, how will you like what sort of parameter you are going to modify, right? That sort of expectations are there from the side of interviewer. So we are going to discuss about Prometheus. Now, let us say, guys, if we are working with container, this specific component we are going to discuss. For example, our services are running maybe on 200 containers. How will you be able to provide? Like initially, someone said that we as DevOps engineer, or maybe we as tech SRE engineers are supposed to pull the logs from individual servers, and we will share the logs with developers. For example, we are running 200 containers for serving a single service, right? If we guys are notified that some of the services are not working properly, and now you guys need to monitor it properly, you guys need to let us know on which particular host it is failing, what are the reasons of failure. So guys, how would you be able to identify on which particular host this request was redirected or this request was served? Will it be really possible to identify on 200 Docker containers which are serving same sort of services? Anyone?
Yes, it is. We can use the monitor, the logging tool like Splunk.
Okay.
And like
Maybe
on
we can
Splunk.
use Splunk, we can use New Relic. And if you want to go for like open source, we can go with ELK, or maybe like rather than using Kibana, we can talk about Grafana ELG, right? Or like ELK, we can talk about Loki, right? So different tools are there, but in this particular session, we will talk about ELK and beans. Like we will talk about like file beats. We will talk about file beats, metric beats. That sort of beats we will talk about here, like how do we monitor logs from different servers to centralized monitoring tool, right? And this particular is going to be logging tool, basically, not monitoring tool and then logging tool. So this particular tool will be responsible to fetch all the logs, because obviously we will need to deploy some sort of like agent here, which will be extracting logs from these containers, and like all the logs will be sent to a particular server, which is going to be like Elasticsearch, and Elasticsearch will like definitely with log stacks we can do some sort of refinement, like rewriting of those logs. Maybe we want to change some sort of format of log. Then after, Kibana is going to be used for visualization of those particular logs in a centralized dashboard. So if there is a particular transaction ID we have, so we may search for the transaction ID, and that transaction ID will be displayed over Kibana. So whatsoever container was responsible for it, maybe the container still exists in environment, or maybe the container is terminated, container is deleted, container that does not exist in environment. So irrespective of that, guys, we are going to see the logs of that particular transaction on a particular centralized logging tool. Right, guys? So these are the particular tools and technology which we are going to discuss, like Git, Jenkins, Ansible, your Docker, Apache, MySQL, Prometheus, ELK, right? And aside to that, the major part here is infrastructure architecture we are going to discuss under this particular session. Right, guys? Yes, couple of other tools based on the demands we have added here. So like most of people are asking about EKS, like Elastic Kubernetes Services, and ECS, Elastic Container Services. For sure, when we will discuss about this, so ECR will also be there. Elastic Container Registry, Elastic Kubernetes Service, Elastic Container Services, we are definitely going to discuss as part of this. Moreover, only if people are interested, we may discuss about your Terraform. This will be completely optional, guys. If people are interested, only then we will discuss it. Guys, let me tell you one thing. Only basic knowledge of this tool will be required. Like prerequisites for attending this particular session here is a person should be knowing at least about like what is Git. Git includes some sort of branches, right? We store logs here. We store some sort of like not logs. We store code here. What is repository? At least basic things a person should be knowing about Jenkins. Same thing goes. Like Jenkins is Java-based tool. We need at least to have Java installed on the server, right? We create some sort of jobs on this. What is Ansible? How do we integrate Jenkins with different machines? What is container, right? So basic knowledge of these tools, basic knowledge of these tools will be required. And guys, once you complete this particular session, and if you work a little hard, right, you shall be able to show at least 3 to 5 years of working experience, like as a DevOps engineer. Because guys, I do not teach only, I share my experience with you. Right, guys? Finally, one more thing I would like to share here. Guys, can you tell me, like, why is a developer not allowed to do deployment onto production environment?
Because you can't have the same person coding and deploying the application based on security or compliance issue.
Okay, then who is supposed to have access on Git? Developer or DevOps?
Git, I think, developer to commit the code.
Okay.
The DevOps engineer manages it, but I think a developer could have a.
Okay, so I have a question. Who is supposed to have administrative access on Git? Jenkins?
Then I think I'm not too sure.
Okay, so ideally, guys, let me answer this particular question. Ideally, what happens? There is a particular term known as segregation of roles and responsibility in DevOps, right? First of all, DevOps team is supposed to help developers if they are facing any sort of issues here. For example, we need to ensure that the developer who is going to commit the code should not be merging into a release branch or maybe into master branch. The very first thing we need to ensure. In order to perform that operation, in order to perform that activity, what is required here? We need to assign individual owners of a specific branch. For example, there should be at least 2 owners of a branch. Let me give you some example here. For example, there is a repository known as server Gyan. This is repo, right? Inside this repo, there is a particular release branch known as release branch. Now, in this particular release branch, there will be 2 developers. For example, first of all, Lokendra, and second developer is going to be, let us say, Ravi or maybe Tom, like whatever name you want, we can give. So we want to ensure if Lokendra is a developer, then Tom has to like review the code and then merge this code to release branch. What will Lokendra do here? Lokendra will do development and will raise a PR. Like there is a term known as PR, we will discuss in detail. PR stands for pull request. Lokendra will do development and will raise a PR. That PR will be approved by Tom after reviewing the code. Right? The same case, like let us say if Tom is doing development, Tom will raise a PR like pull request and request will be sent to Lokendra. Lokendra will approve it after verifying, after reviewing the code. That is known as code review. You can call that peer code review. So same person who is doing development cannot merge the code into release branch. Clear, guys? And only these 2 are the owners. Let us say if some other developers are also working there. Let us say there is like Natasha, like there is Ram, there is Ravi, and multiple developers are there, right? So if multiple developers are there, these do not have access to release branch. These are just going to raise a PR. In that particular case, Lokendra or Tom or either of will be able to review the code of these 3 developers, and then these users like Lokendra and Tom will be able to merge the code into release branch. Now code is available in the release branch into Git, into this particular Git SCM tool. Now DevOps team role will begin. DevOps team will pull the code from this particular tool and will do deployment onto these containers. Where is a breach here? So let us say if Lokendra is a particular DevOps, or let us say there is a person known as, for example, Harry. Harry is a DevOps engineer, right? Harry has administrative access in order to help developers, right? Moreover, Harry is the person who is managing Jenkins completely, right? So what would happen, guys, here in this particular case? So for example, Harry has no restriction for doing development and for doing development. Let us say that Harry does not know coding, but what if Harry is learning coding in background, Harry is learning development in background, no one else knows that. There is a particular day when Harry feels not satisfied with the organization Harry does some changes within SCM, like source code management tool. Then after, without any sort of sign-offs, like guys, for every single release, if you are working in such an organization which are dealing with customer data, there are a couple of sign-offs required, such as first of all QA sign-off, like quality assurance. Then after UAT sign-off, user acceptance. Okay, let me define a sign-off. Then after security. Then after your business approval, like business to operation, that is known as B2O. Business to operation, like your developers will inform about the changes being made into the code to operation team. Operation team means tech ops we were talking about, right? So B2 sign off will be required there. Vertical head, engineering head, or maybe you can call that like tech ops head, the particular person who is taking care of infrastructure. Right? Change management approval. Moreover, load testing. Then after, impact analysis. Impact analysis report. For example, if we are making any changes into one service, so is it good? Because see, when we are talking about like multiple microservices are running, so if we make any change within this particular service, so how many other services are getting connected to this? Are these is this service going to make an impact on other services? So that sort of information has to be made available in written on a piece of document, like in form of a document to all the stakeholders. Only then a change is deployed. So guys, do you have any questions so far on this? Guys, these are the sign-offs required before doing any sort of change into production environment. Are we aware of this? So guys, why I'm telling you, like if a person is going to say like, okay, you are working as a DevOps engineer, can you walk me through the particular approval process? Can a person ask you for approval process or not during interview as a DevOps engineer?
Yes, I did it. When I was doing any changes in production environment, I need to raise the CR in which I seek permission from the different people that I'm going to do such kind of change in the production environment.
Right. So which means with the things which I'm telling, these are of real world. Like you will need to have your QA sign off, UAT sign off, security sign off, you need to operation sign off, your vertical head approval that yes, we are good to go with this particular code. We need to have tech ops head approval that yes, you can modify infrastructure, because let us say there are two environments like your data center and disaster recovery side, right? If your traffic is running from DR side and your developers do not have information about it in any like what scenario, right? You do deployment on your data center, you forget about DR, right? There is no traffic coming in, your changes would not reflect because the deployment which you have done is on DC and traffic is being served from DR. DR means disaster recovery side. Once again, I will explain that. So guys, you will do deployment and you will roll it back. You will be in trouble that you are not getting traffic onto your server. So that is why technical head, the particular tech ops head approval will be required in order to proceed with the deployment. The person would let you know that where from your traffic is getting served, right? What all servers are there. For example, developer knows that only 5 servers are serving the particular traffic, but due to excess of load, the particular technical like tech ops has added 2 more nodes, 2 more servers has been added to same stack. Developers do not know that. During this particular B2O, business to operation, so developers will inform to operation team that these are the modification. Let us say like we have like remove some sort of exceptions here. For example, we have added some new line of code into like logging section. We are going to change the mode of logging, which may require to have additional disk space. Moreover, operation team will notify developers or to business team that right now the particular traffic which we were getting earlier and the traffic which we have now is 50% higher. So we have added 2 more servers. So at the time of deployment, please ensure to do the deployment or to get this deployment done onto these two additional nodes as well. Getting point, guys? So it is not like only business team will notify operation. So operation team can also notify to business team, and this particular will be done with the help of like TechOps head approval. If the person approves that yes, 2 more nodes were added, I know this particular information, then you are good to go ahead. Otherwise, you may need to have a written approval that we are going to add 2 more nodes to existing stack. Only after that, your TechOps head will be providing you approvals. Are we clear with that, guys?
Yes.
So I hope that that is it for today. So guys, you let me know if you have any sort of question, you would like to ask anything, you have any sort of suggestion, anything.
I have a question. I wanted to ask, how do they get their approvals? Is it via email? Is it via formal email?
Okay, so there are multiple ways to get approval. So let us say, if we talk about like highly automated systems, obviously the first way here is email. We have different tool for tracking the particular change request, like you can think of like ServiceNow or maybe any other tool. The other way here is, just a moment, let me draw a diagram here. Give me a moment. Okay, so let us say that there is a Jira ticket created. I hope that we all are aware of Jira.
Yes, it's a ticket.
So there is a particular Jira ticket created for deployment, right? This Jira ticket, as soon as we will create a particular Jira ticket, this Jira ticket, Jira software is integrated with ServiceNow. ServiceNow, like this particular Jira ticket will be associated with the ServiceNow. Now, as soon as ServiceNow will be like having a particular concept known as CR, like change request. This change request will now be connected to Jenkins. Like, okay, this particular ServiceNow will open multiple Jiras. This ServiceNow will automatically create multiple Jiras, like one Jira for QA team. QA Jira we can define here. Like there will be Jira in the like bin of QA team. There will be another Jira in the bin of security team. There will be another Jira in like in the bin of your let us say your ops team. Another Jira will be in your UAT. Right? So the number of flows which we want to have. So every single Jira will be associated with this particular CR. So as soon as, like, for example, in hypothetical situation, you need to identify like where this is stuck and how we can fix it, right? At what particular level it is pending. So you will just go to your Jira requirement where you raise the requirement. From that, you will track, okay, this particular Jira is associated with this particular CR. That is highly automated process, guys. I'm telling you, which like people use for sure, but not everyone. So this service now, like CR will create multiple Jira tickets. So let us say QA is done. QA will close it. Closed. Security team is working on it. Operation team has already given sign off. UAT, okay, UAT, not UAR. UAT team will say that not approved. Till the time this is not approved, right? So these all are automated. Service now can track the particular status of this. If it is not approved, maybe the Jira or the development requirement may get cancelled automatically, right? So there are multiple flows over here. Like if it is approved, it is not approved, it is pending, it is reopened based on the particular status of these Jiras. Service now can keep on tracking. Moreover, the particular requester who has done like who has requested for this sort of thing, the person will be notified based on like each and every like activity which are done over here. Because end of the day, these all three tools are like integrated with one another. For example, this ticket is not assigned to any like quality engineer. So if this particular Jira is pending maybe for like 1 day or more, maybe for 2 days based on that, then the particular requester will be informed that this Jira ticket is not assigned to anyone yet. Once all the things are closed, let us say closed, it is closed, let us say. Once all the tickets are closed, then what would happen? This particular service now will inform this particular Jira that every like sub associated tasks are completed. Then this Jira ticket will be like obviously will notify some maybe your business managers. Right now we have all the approvals. This particular Jira will send a mail to business manager who requested this, that now the particular deployment is ready to be triggered. Now, based on the particular integration, this Jenkins will be like this Jira will be integrated with Jenkins. There will be some specific job based on the particular product, based on the particular repository which we have already selected. There will be like automated trigger, job trigger. Jenkins, if like obviously the person will get some mails, right? Based on the particular approval which is provided on email, this Jenkins job will be triggered. Moreover, now let us say there are 5 servers available here. This is really high-end automation flow, guys, which I'm telling, do not get confused with it. I'm so sorry to say that if you guys have any sort of confusion, we can discuss later on. But yes, this is a particular way. How does this work, right? So now what happens here? Let us say there are 5 servers. Like this is our VM 1. So what would happen here? We would have VM2. We would have here VM3. Okay, let's have 3 only, right? This Jenkins will do deployment only on 1 server, right? Now, this Jenkins has capability that it can monitor or it will notify some of the like other components. For example, we have automatic monitoring engine over here, like we have Prometheus, right? Then after we have some sort of health check URL. So, and obviously like we are going to capture logs on ELK, right? So this particular ELK comparison will be done with the help of some sort of other like comparison tool. Now, if performance is good, this particular Prometheus will check logs will be monitored on ELK in order to ensure that the particular health like HTTPS response code are fine, right? Once this is done, so after that, this particular system will notify Jenkins that yes, everything is working fine. Then this particular flow will execute once again, and remaining servers for the particular same service stack will be updated with the latest build. So this is how it works. Once the particular deployment is done on all the servers, then it will notify the particular business owner that yes, now deployment is completed onto all server. Moreover, the particular logs of application, like how many requests have been received in the last 30 minutes, what are the response code, right? How many errors we are getting, every sort of record based on this particular ELK dashboard can be emailed to this particular business manager. Now there will be one more trigger. For example, if this business manager feels like the particular number of failures are more than expected, these are way beyond, we cannot actually release instruction, the person will have a particular mechanism to initiate rollback as well. As soon as the particular mail will be sent to this particular person will have a particular another link to initiate rollback. Once again, the previous will be rolled back, and the person will be like notified based on the particular performance of it. So this is how like complete automation flow works. Single Jira ticket we can deploy, we can guys, please mute yourself if you are not speaking. So guys, how does it look like? Interesting or confusing?
Interesting, sir.
And
Interesting. High level, actually.
let me tell you, when we are talking about this, so there will be a lot of component required, because in order to ensure inventory of like servers where deployment is supposed to go, we will need Mongo. in order to ensure like the particular health check API monitoring, the log monitoring, we will require log key here. A lot of other components will be required. We will not run Prometheus along with your time series database. We will need VictoriaDB because we may need to analyze the particular trend of our existing surveys with previous 1 month stats. So in order to like that, we will need VictoriaDB in order to like store like previous metrics. Right, guys? So a lot of components are required there. So we may discuss, not a problem. So if it is interesting, then definitely, guys, you are going to love this session. Otherwise, you know what you are going to miss. Right, guys? So any question do you have?
Sir, who will raise this Jira ticket first?
Business team.
I have one question.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, let's say, there are many of us who won't work in particular technologies. Like, let's say, for example, I don't work on Kubernetes. I don't work on AWS. So do you think like after attending your session, at least I'm capable to answer the basic interview questions
For
for a
sure.
particular technology?
For sure. One more thing, the person who is not, who let us say you do not know Git as of today. The rest of tools you know. So once we will be discussing within this particular session, so at least you will have this idea, like when you will start preparing for Git. For sure, if you want to become a DevOps engineer, you will have to learn Git, right? So you will have a very clear picture in mind. Okay, if I have to become a DevOps engineer, then this is the particular direction in which I need to prepare for Git. Like whether it is going to be developer side, it is going to be administrator side, it is going to be DevOps side.
I agree.
So before learning any tool, okay, let us say so many people prepare for IAS, IPS, right?
Mhm.
So it is not necessary that what to learn, it is necessary what not to learn. Because there is a huge content available for every single competitive exam, right? So what matters here is not what to learn, what to skip in order to complete the particular like creamy layer of that particular technology. Right?
Right.
It's definitely going to be helpful for that. And that is it. Guys,
Yes.
I would love to take your feedback on this particular session. If you have any suggestion, you want to say something, anything, I would love to hear it from your side now.
Yeah. One last question. And how long your classes would be?
So, no, I tell you because I am also working professional. I just usually commit that 4 days in a week. I will take classes from Monday to Friday.
Okay.
If I'm available for entire week, so we may take classes 5 days in a week. To be frank, why it is so? Because sometime early in the morning. Okay, let me stop recording first. This is going to be of no use, right?